Welcome everybody to ChatGPT 2024 for Accountants, aka Part 3. My name is Hector Garcia, and today we're going to be talking about, quickly, briefly talk about how this is Part 3. We did have a Parts 1 and 2 in CPA Academy, which we called ChatGPT 101 and ChatGPT 102 that covered the fundamental aspects of ChatGPT. This particular webinar is going to be a little bit more advanced. We're going to make the assumption that if you're watching this live or watching the recording afterwards, all the fundamental stuff of ChatGPT you have already covered. Now, if you're brand new to the world of ChatGPT, I would still recommend you to hang around, check it out, but you're probably going to want to go back and check out the 101 and 102 as part of these three-part series. We're going to talk about the difference between ChatGPT, the free edition, the one that everybody has access to, and then the Plus edition, the one that you pay $20 a month for, and what are those extra features that you get for that extra monthly payment. Then we're going to talk about some advanced conversation tips and tricks, some of the things that we haven't covered in Part 1 and Part 2 that will really, really speed you up and get you much faster in your conversation flow with ChatGPT. That's going to be available in both the free editions and the paid editions and the Plus edition. And then during the most of the webinar, we're going to talk about all the advanced concepts in ChatGPT that you only see in the Plus edition, such as Vision, which is you uploading pictures and have it interpret the pictures. We're going to do a couple of interesting examples, such as image generation. So how you tell it to create an image and the type of images it can create. Advanced data analytics, where you can upload, a spreadsheet, or you can upload a complex PDF document and tell it, hey, what is this? Can you help me determine what this is? And lastly, we'll talk about building your own custom ChatGPT and what that could look like in 2024 as you start, giving your clients, your employees, whatever, sort of a private ChatGPT with your own context. So in slide number 3, you're going to see links to both the slides for Part 1 and Part 2 and the link to CPA Academy's self-study CPE if you want to take those courses as context for this Part 3 that we are covering now. Now, about myself, I'm a CPA in Florida. I've been practicing in bookkeeping and tax for over 15 years. I have a YouTube channel if you want to check that out. Most of the content I do is on QuickBooks. I'm also the founder of a tool that I developed. It's an add-on tool for QuickBooks Online called Right Tool for QuickBooks Online. And if you're a QuickBooks Online user, I guarantee you're going to love that tool, so check that out. I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor. And in 2023, I was named QSP Partner of the Year. This is a QuickBooks solution provider because I sell so much QuickBooks. And also, I'm a recent podcaster. I started a podcast called the Unofficial QuickBooks Accountants Podcast. You definitely want to check that out. Now, I put my email on the slides because there's going to be tons of questions during this live webinar. I'm going to try to get to some of them, but the ones that I don't, I'm going to get a copy of the questions via email, and I might not be able to get to all of them. So if any of you have any super duper pressing ChatGPT AI type questions that we didn't cover in today's webinar, just email me, and obviously you will go on the top of the list because I'll try to respond to those emails first. And also, if you work for a firm that needs any sort of custom training in the world of QuickBooks or in the world of AI or ChatGPT, there's my email if you want to know more about how we can help your firm in a more one-on-one or small group type setting. Okay. So let's talk about free versus Plus subscription. So in the slides, I put a little screenshot to the button that you press whenever you are in the free edition and you click on Upgrade to Plus. It basically shows you, hey, it's free for the basic edition, and Plus gives you access to additional features. Once you upgrade to Plus, it's a simple $20 a month fee. This is going to be per user. So if you have multiple people in a firm and everybody wants access to ChatGPT Plus, every single person has to set up an account individually. They do have an enterprise account, which I don't have access to because I applied and my company was too small. I have 9 employees and they said, no way, keep using Plus. So for larger companies or larger firms, you can opt in to look at ChatGPT Enterprise. And the main difference between Plus and Enterprise is that the Enterprise edition does not use the data that you're working with to train its own model. So like Plus still uses the data to train its own model. So you have to be very careful with using personally identifiable information and that sort of thing, which is why it's so important for larger corporations to have this sort of Enterprise edition. So hopefully once they bring this out to the smaller businesses, the small firms will be able to access Enterprise, and I'm very much looking forward to that. But as of the very beginning of 2024, I don't have access to that, and I don't think I'll have access until maybe the middle of 2024 or maybe towards the end, because ChatGPT Enterprise is still for the larger companies. Now, I did a quick chart for you that explains the difference between the free edition and the Plus edition. Essentially, the difference in the Plus edition, you're going to get the advanced model of ChatGPT 4. And for some context, ChatGPT 3.5 was used to try to pass the CPA exam. Essentially, a bunch of researchers took the actual CPA exam the sample questions, put it into ChatGPT 3.5 and try to see if it would get a passing grade. And ChatGPT 3.5 wouldn't. But ChatGPT 4 simulated passing a CPA exam. So that gives you a general idea and context. Same thing for the bar exam, same thing for the MCAT. ChatGPT 4 has proven that it can pass a lot of exams that are essentially more difficult for the average person to pass, and ChatGPT 3.5, the basic free model, doesn't do it, but ChatGPT 4 does. So that gives you some context in terms of like when you pay for ChatGPT Plus, you're gonna get a more updated and more advanced model. You can also get the custom custom GPTs. So we'll talk about that. The image generation, we'll talk about that. The web browsing, we'll talk about that, and the plugins, which we won't talk about that. We talked about that in a previous webinar. And I don't want to get into plugins because I have a feeling, and this is a prediction I'm making for 2024, but I have a feeling that plugins will be deprecated and it will be replaced with custom GPTs. So plugins is the only thing that we will not be covering in this live webinar. So as we go through the slides, you will notice that there's a little cheat sheet that kind of tells you what all the buttons do. So that's just there for reference. You can print it, you can have it there, for later on. You can refer to that. We're not gonna go into the basics of it. But when you get into the Plus edition, there's a couple of things worth pointing out. Of course, you being able to switch from 3.5 to 4, access to the custom GPTs, access to the plugins, activating 4 so you can get web browsing, image generation, data analysis, and that little button there with the paperclip, basically indicating that you can upload files to that. Okay, so the first most important new feature they've added, this is towards the end of 2023, is you being able to do contextual replies within a conversation to make your conversation so you can quickly make your conversation more specific to the text that ChatGPT is giving you. So let's exit out of that, and then I'm just gonna open ChatGPT. This is the free account that I have open now. So we're working on the free account for this. So I'll start with something like give me a list. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit of typical tax deductions missed by the average small business owner. Okay, so I'm just basically doing something very generic, and then ChatGPT starts talking. Okay, as you start looking at the answers, there might be one specific one that you have a question about. So let's say, for example, health insurance premiums is one you have a question about. Then you can come down here in the chat and say, hey, tell me more about health insurance premiums. But this is a very subtle new feature that they added towards the end of 2023, where you can select the text that you actually want to be working with. So essentially, I selected health insurance premiums in this specific case, and then I actually click on where it says reply, and then it adds the context as a sort. It's almost like an email thread as the context, and then you can ask a question about that. So I can say, tell me more about it. Okay, or we can just do something even simple and just type expand, right? So again, we're just trying to look for, ultimate efficiencies. We want to type as little as possible. I just selected health insurance premiums and said expand, and then ChatGPT went in and explained even more. And then we can get into details like, code section, for example. So I can put here limits on deductions. I can come in here, select that. I can click on reply, and I can put which code section of IRC or IRS form instructions / publications talk about this. Okay. Again, I'm just sort of contextually and trying to use examples that we would use, and as accountants, where we're selecting something from within the conversation, and then we are instead of typing the whole thing, we're selecting the context of what we want, and it says here, this is under section 162. You can see information about publication 535. I can actually even select publication 535, click on reply, and say what else is covered here. Okay, and again, it's now basically it's going to say, okay, publication 535 covers all these other things. Okay, so that's kind of like the most important tip that I could tell you. This stuff has significantly increased the speed in which I do conversations with ChatGPT. I mean, just incredibly, totally incredibly. Okay, so let's go back to the slides here, and let's discuss the next one. So the next one here is edit conversations inline. This is pretty interesting too, where most people, when they look at a ChatGPT, they look at it as a completely linear sort of approach, where you ask a question, they give you an answer. You ask a question, they give you an answer. But sometimes you could basically create an alternative set of conversations within the same thread, which is really interesting. So I'm going to skip out of that, open up ChatGPT, and let's say I want to go back up here for a second, and then in this particular instance where I asked what else is covered here, okay, I can change my question, and I can say something like, which page mentions health insurance? So it's a completely different question, and I'm not killing my conversation. I allowed the thread of my conversation to stay naturally, but I edited one of the questions up here. I edited this question instead of, which, what else is in this publication? I changed the question, click on save and submit, and essentially it branches off, and it has essentially two conversations. Okay, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So in this one, I said which page number mentions health insurance. It says, look, the last version that I was able to read is a 2021 version of publication 535, basically giving you a warning that if there's a newer version, hey, that's not part of the general knowledge that ChatGPT has. And it says it's page 24. And then I can say something like, what else is in page 24? I don't know if it'll answer something like this, but yeah, so it says, okay, I don't have direct access to the publication, but it just answer the question about that. But then what's interesting is that if I scroll up here, you're gonna notice this part, and this is the crucial element. You see how it says 2 out of 2. What that says is that look, from this point we branched into 2 separate conversations. If I click on the little arrow to the left, I switch back to 1 out of 2, and essentially my conversation in the bottom, it stays within the first question, the first version of the question that I answered. And if I click on the little arrow to the right, then I go to conversation number 2, and then it replaces it. So it keeps in the memory the fact that there's 2 parallel branches of the same conversation. That's pretty awesome too. Okay, so that's another advanced technique. A third advanced technique is to request a rewrite or to give feedback that the answer is no good. And it works kind of the same way. It creates an alternative branch. The difference is that you don't have to retype the question. You're saying, hey, rewrite this. So we'll come back here for a second. And then let's go to this version of the conversation where it says what else is covered here. And there's a whole bunch of things that are covered. I can click on down here in the bottom of the little panel with all the options. So we have copy to clipboard, we have uh, give feedback that is good, give feedback that is bad, and then a rewrite. If I click on rewrite on the little circle, basically it'll rewrite the same answer. Notice it took an entirely different approach. So in this approach, it started with ordinary, necessary, trader business, reasonable, not excessive. See, it took an entirely different approach to answer the question, what else is covered here? But if I click on the arrow, I can see the different options that we have here for the answers. So again, you can also come in here, and instead of giving the feedback of rewrite, I can say down arrow, and I can say, look, I don't like that answer. And essentially, when I down arrow, two things happen. One, you're able to give feedback to ChatGPT and tell it, hey, this isn't true, this isn't helpful, whatever it is, and you can type something in there. Sometimes a human being reads that. Sometimes the same AI tries to figure out, whether or not it needs to sort of teach itself. But you don't have to submit feedback. You actually can just X out of that. But then immediately, as the new answer came about, I can swap between the two answers, and then I have multiple answers. And then I can say, hey, is this answer better? Is it worse? I can say same, and then that was essentially the feedback. So that's what happens when you give feedback. It'll try to give you another answer. If I down thumb it again, and again, I don't have to give the feedback, then there's basically three versions of the answer. So if I cycle through, you see, and I'm clicking on this little arrow that's here, right there, 2 out of 3. And it's, again, very similar to having an edited version of the question, but this time I'm actually giving live feedback to ChatGPT. Okay, so those are the sort of the 3 advanced techniques. The other things that you want to know, it's a very sort of underused feature, which is being able to archive a chat. So what happens over long term is you're going to have a lot of chats in your active chat box, and it's basically pretty much cluttered because it's a single left navigation bar with all of them, and you can either delete them or archive them. So I'm going to show you that process really quick. So for example, let's say I don't want to delete this one. Obviously deleting is an option, and once I click delete, that's it, it's gone. But if I click on archive chat, it removes it completely. Okay, so now I can't see my archive chats anymore. I can go into my settings. Okay, in the bottom left, I can go into my settings, click on archive chats manage, basically a list of all your archive chats, and then you're going to have a list of all your archive chats, and you can either click on it to basically turn it back on, okay, and open it, okay, and then you can click on archive if you want to continue working with it, or I'm just going to go back into the settings here one more time. You can also delete it, so you can permanently delete it, and then you can unarchive it. So those are the couple of options that you have. So you can either preview it and then choose whether you want to unarchive it or not, unarchive it from here, or delete it straight from here. So those are the really interesting sort of advanced techniques. Now, the other advanced technique, which is not really an advanced technique, it's just more of a prompting technique, is a step-by-step process I have devised and I put together, and I think this is probably about the best way to approach an effective prompt. And what I mean by effective prompt is a prompt that would get you the answer that you want. So a prompt that would finally get you where you want to get to. So I'm going to copy and paste the prompt that is in here, and I'm just going to walk you through this prompt. It says, as a tax consultant, write a formal email explaining the implications of new legislation for small business. Ensure your explanation is clear and comprehensive, using bullet points, 4 main points. Be concise as possible. Aim to respond within 500 words. This new legislation is called CARES Act. Was enacted during the Trump administration to counteract COVID, etc., etc. So I can grab and copy and paste this into a new chat, and we can update this and maybe change something like instead of having CARES Act, I can do Inflation Reduction Act or something newer. Just keep in mind that the free version of ChatGPT, which is the one that we're using now, it's trained up to January of 2022, and then the paid version of ChatGPT version 4 is trained up to April of 2023. So the paid version is way ahead in terms of the knowledge base. Plus, the paid version can also search the web and get you even more sort of newer information. So that's why I'm using sort of an older legislature for this specific example. And then I'm going to click on send message, and then ChatGPT it's going to do exactly what I told them. It's going to write a letter, and I told it to stay within 500 words, and it will stay within 500 words. And then I asked it to add a typical frequently asked questions after the fact. I'm going to copy this link, and I'm going to paste it in the chat. So if you're watching live via the webinar, you'll be able to click on that link that's in the chat, and with your free ChatGPT account, you can actually view this specific chat that I just started. So this one here. But what I wanted to point out is that on the next slide, there's actually a link that sends you to my Google Word or Google Doc file that actually contains step-by-step sort of the explanation behind this. And essentially it says follow these 6 elements. So when you do a prompt, you're going to say, hey, explain what the output medium is. So is this text going to be an email? Is it going to be a newsletter? Is it going to be a legal document? Whatever, right? The presentation style. Do you want to see bullet points? Do you want to see tables? Do you want to see markdown? That sort of thing. Tone, do you want it to be friendly? You want it to be formal, motivational, that sort of thing. Writing style, okay, I want it to be academic or creative or whatever. I want it to be short. I want it to be long. How many words do I want? That sort of thing. And then what language do I want? Do I want proper English? Do I want slang, colloquial? Do I want it to be sort of more fresh and non-official, that sort of thing? You can specify that. And then on the prompting example, I actually break down specifically in the prompt every single instance in which where the prompt is actually using these techniques. So definitely take a look at that effective prompting cheat sheet, because it's going to help you tremendously just get better at prompting in general. Okay, let's move on to ChatGPT Vision Plus. And I want to take a second to sort of play around a little bit. I am going to open up my phone, and I'm going to open up the app in my phone. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a second. App in my phone. I want to show you kind of the power of ChatGPT that we're starting to see at the end of 2023. They added this amazing feature, which is a live conversation from the phone. So if you're using the phone app, whether it's an iPhone or Android, there's going to be a little button here in the bottom that allows you to enable the microphone. So I'm going to put this really close to the microphone so you can kind of see. So I'm going to click on the microphone, and you're going to see ChatGPT will start talking to me. This is available both in the free and the Plus editions, which is pretty cool. But of course, if you want the better AI, the ChatGPT 4, you have to have the Plus edition. So I'm going to say here, so I'm going to click on it, wait until it finishes loading. Of course, it decided to load today slowly. Okay, so if we can't get into the voice section, we'll wait until the end. Let's see if this thing, okay, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to click on the voice, wait for it to connect, and say, hey, ChatGPT, I have a client that's been texting me about whether or not they should buy or lease a vehicle. They're like at the dealership now, and it's a hybrid vehicle. It's a Volvo XC90, and they're wondering whether they get any sort of special tax deductions in 2023 for buying a hybrid vehicle.
Okay, let's look into the tax benefits for buying a hybrid vehicle in 2023. The Volvo XC90 Hybrid might qualify for certain tax incentives. These incentives can vary based on where you live and the specific vehicle model. Generally, hybrid and electric vehicles can qualify for federal tax credits, and there might be additional state-specific incentives. It's important to check the latest tax laws or consult a tax professional for the most accurate information. Does your client have any specific concerns about buying versus leasing in terms of tax benefits?
All right, so that gives you a general idea, and it basically works the exact same way as regular ChatGPT, where you can just continue having a conversation there. So I wanted to take a little second to kind of show you in the phone app. You definitely want to play with that, because that's pretty awesome and pretty impressive anyway, to kind of see that. Okay. All right, so let's talk about image recognition. So I wanted to show you briefly uh, a sort of a use case of something that you might come up with. So we just don't talk about just like random images, because there's also you could also do really well, just with random images, and might not have time to 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 do that. But I could take a picture of something in my room and ask it, hey, what do you see? And it'll actually do inventory of everything that it's seeing, which is pretty interesting. But I show you here is like, what if a client of yours, and this happens to me all the time, my clients do this all the time, where they say, hey, I already did all the accounting, I'll send it to you. And basically it's a paper with a bunch of numbers and a bunch of words. And most clients don't understand that this is just kind of a really annoying thing that I have to now sit there and transcribe. Okay. So that's kind of like, the challenge is, hey, is this valuable to get something like this? But what's pretty neat is, and I'm gonna show you that when I go into ChatGPT, and I'm gonna switch out to the paid version because the free version doesn't have that. You have to be on the paid version to do the image recognition, or what they're calling ChatGPT Vision. So I'm gonna log into my paid account and show you. This is really, really cool. So I'm going to click on the little paper clip in the bottom, and I'm gonna upload that document. Again, for context, what I'm uploading is that image that I just showed you. That's basically, again, I'll pull it up again. Okay, this is what I'm uploading, right? A weird paper with handwriting where somebody wrote a bunch of stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and upload that document, and I'm gonna say I received this, and I'll joke here, P&L from my client. Can you please transcribe it in a table? And again, going back to this is handwritten, okay? This thing actually understands and reads handwriting. And you're seeing the first version of this really, really early, 2024, you're seeing the first version of this. Where this is going, it's going to be absolutely incredible. Okay, again, obviously, some chicken scratch it won't be able to read. This is not necessarily the most beautiful handwriting in the world. Happens to be my handwriting, of course. But it gives you a general idea. Like this is not like super easy and clear to read from a computer. I mean, some of these words, some of these letters are kind of like jumbled with the next letter. It's not super clear. And this thing went in there and understood 100% of the words. Okay. And then I have it do math. Okay, what's the net income? Again, and now at this point, this is just regular ChatGPT, just having it do what it does, right? But it basically it can do the calculation for me and figure this out, and it can even go even further and say, hey, which of these could be non-deductible in a Schedule C or something like that, and then you let a ChatGPT, do its thing, check against the general knowledge, and let what could be non-deductible and not. So let's see if it calculates the net income for us. Okay, so there's our total expense amount. There's a total income. Now it could have missed something. Let's just be 100% clear. It could miss something, so I can go back here and have it check its work and say, hey, did you miss something? It might have missed something. I don't know. I haven't done the math yet, but it could have missed something. Let's see. Card payments, gas, insurance, credit cards, phone, marketing. Yeah, no, it missed nothing. That's beautiful. Okay, it got it. That's my net income. Okay, you can actually click on view analysis, and you can see what information it's actually using. This is basically sort of like the code. You can see, hey, what information is it using to figure out and do this math. Now I can come in here and go further and go, which of these expenses in a Schedule C would probably not be, I'll put includable. Like I'm actually not using specific, tax terms. I'm just saying, hey, what would an average person do? And again, I don't want you so much to think about what you are doing as an accountant with this stuff. I want you to think about what's going to happen in the future as the average small business owner, as the average person, starts interacting with ChatGPT with this amount of power. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool, pretty interesting. Okay, so now it's come here. It says, hey, it's actually using really good advice. It says here, car payments. Hey, this might not be deductible, only the portion that is an expense. And it's not even like, at this point, it's not even saying, hey, is it lease, is it purchase, is it being depreciated? So we can even go further and go, what about depreciation, and expand upon it. But look, gas, is it for business miles driven? Insurance, is it business insurance? Credit cards, look, interest and fees are deductible. But maybe the payment, the principal is not. So it's pretty interesting, how it can, you can do the combination of reading images and the chat portion. Let's do one more. I'm gonna create another chat, and then what I'll do is I will open up a Schedule C. Okay, so I'm just gonna dump this Schedule C into ChatGPT and say, hey, what am I looking at, or something like that. So I'm gonna come in here and bring the Schedule C and say, what am I looking at? Okay, and then ChatGPT will read the form, will read the numbers, and actually tell you what you're looking at. So it says, look, you're looking at a Schedule C form for 2019. The owner is Hector Garcia. The name of the company is HG Consult. And then I can ask questions like, talk to me about the numbers. Okay, and then we'll kind of let that do the numbers analysis, and I'll pull this up here to the side so you can see that. I'll bring ChatGPT here to the right. So it's actually going through and walking you through what all the numbers are, and let's wait until I finish the analysis. So then I can say, what were the sales? And again, at this point, after you saw it, read handwriting. Obviously, reading the total sales on here wouldn't be as. And actually, this is wrong. As a matter of fact, look, this information is wrong. It's at 105, and this is the stuff that you gotta be careful about, right? This stuff is not perfect, and I can say, which line are you reading? That's interesting. I don't even know why it read 105. But again, I think it's important. I'm not trying to sell you on ChatGPT, it being the most infallible thing in the world. It actually made a mistake, so you do have to be careful. And I put that number is wrong. Check again. At this point, you go, oh, okay. Well, if it's gonna get it wrong, then AI is useless. Well, this is the tricky part, where AI is kind of useful, and then sometimes it makes mistakes. And the problem is sometimes it will give you answers that are so confident that you don't really doubt of what it does. Now, I actually uploaded a PDF, not an image, so I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm actually gonna take an image of this. Okay, so I actually took a screenshot of it. Again, I don't know where I got the 105 from, which is kind of interesting. And I'm gonna upload it again. I'll upload an image instead of a PDF. Believe it or not, sometimes it's more effective. Here is an image, not a PDF. Read the sales again. And this is the fun part of doing live webinars, of course. Like, I'm not trying in any way, shape, or form to make sure that it's infallible, right? I don't work for ChatGPT. I'm not trying to convince you that this is the best thing in the world. But let's see if it can read it. Let's see. The image uploaded appears to be a screenshot. However, I'm unable to detect text from these images. So it's interesting. In this particular case, it didn't read it, which I find it really interesting, because it did it with the handwriting text. So who knows why it behaved like that in this particular instance. Let's do one more here, and we'll open up a different document. Let's open up, let's say, let's do a P&L. So I'm gonna grab a P&L, take a picture of the P&L here, actually a balance sheet. This is a balance sheet. Let's open up the P&L. Hang on, there you go. So here's my P&L. or let's do a portion of the P&L. So I'm gonna take a picture of the portion of the P&L like this. Okay, and I'm gonna upload that and ask it, what am I looking at? What is this? Let's see if this time it won't let me down. But just basically took a picture of it. It's not a PDF. I took a picture of it, and then it starts recognizing it. So I don't understand why sometimes it'll recognize the text from it. Sometimes it won't. Again, it seems to be a little bit sort of all over the place. What are the total sales? Is it here? Yeah, it says total revenue. So let's see if it'll read the total sales from the document. So there it is. So it was able to read it from here. So kind of interesting. Like sometimes you'll get a good answer like that. Sometimes you won't. But kind of this is image recognition. This is how image recognition works. As I mentioned earlier, you can also take sort of a picture of anything, okay, and you can upload that picture and ask it, hey, what's in here? What am I looking at? Okay, that sort of thing. So let's see if I can do that. If we have time to do that, let's make sure. So I taking a picture with my phone of my office. I'm gonna paste this thing in here. Okay. So I took a picture of like what's next to my office. Sorry for the mess. Okay. And I'm gonna ask it what's in here. Okay. So I literally just took a picture of what's next to me. There's a scanner. There's a printer. There's a hard drive here. There's an Amazon box. There's another monitor. There's some stuff in the screen. And I'm actually telling it what it is. And then I can say do inventory. Okay. And I want you to kind of think about the future of people that do inventory. Okay. Or let's see. So I said do inventory, and it says, hey, I can't do physical tasks, but this is the stuff that I could do. I can create a list, what's in there, that sort of thing. So I can say, yes, create a list of what is in here. And I'll go in there and I'll do a list for you. So it's a multifunction office. It's pretty amazing. Multifunction office printer, desktop monitor, office chair, likely ergonomic, and that's true, a very ergonomic chair. Wooden desk, assorted office supplies, cork bulletin board. Yeah, that's true. Wall-mounted organization board, small white scanner. Yeah, exactly. Power strips. I don't know where you got the power strips from. Let's see where's the picture. Oh yeah, it's in the bottom. Power strips, and then we have possible a phone. It's funny, possibly a phone, and it's basically because it got that little corner off of it. So I want you to kind of think about what's going to happen in the future, where people use artificial intelligence to literally do inventory, or at least get a head start on inventory. So I kind of want you to think about that, because it's like, the future is looking really interesting, especially when we think about stuff that is relevant to our profession. Now, I want to talk to you about image generation. So that's a little bit different. So we just took images, sent it to ChatGPT, and then asked it what it was. What if we do the opposite? What if we tell it to create an image? So I can come in here and say, create 2 images back to back of the same office. One with paper all over the place and very disorganized. Let's call this a classic accounting office, and one with all paperless systems and high-tech stuff. Let's call this a modern cloud-based accounting firm, something like that. So we'll press enter, and the thing will literally create any image of anything you ask it to do, with the exception of anything that's like sort of politically driven. Like if you ask it to draw a caricature of Obama or Trump or Biden, it won't do that. Like it's sort of pre-built to avoid controversial stuff. Although you can essentially sometimes hack ways around it. But so here's image one. Okay, we have office with sort of tax returns and paperwork all over the place. A computer that seems like a computer from the 60s. A bunch of binders in the back. Pretty cool. And then we have a little bit way too high tech of an office, but it's just pretty interesting how you can do that. And then you can do something even crazier, like one that is sort of in the middle, transitioning. Okay, so you can go even more crazy and say, hey, you gave me two images, that are very sort of contrasting. You got one type and another type, and then I can say something like, give me something in the middle, and the thing will figure out what that middle looked like. Just really interesting. It's really very really interesting. Okay, so we'll wait for that image to come in, and I definitely encourage you to try that. Definitely one of the most. It put transitioning in the top. I found that pretty interesting. So the office is pretty organized. There's still some binders in the back. That's pretty cool. Pretty neat. And honestly, if you have a lot of time in your hands, you probably spend a lot of time playing with these different images. In this particular case, I told them in the slides, I said, hey, give me an image of a 30-something that's doing accounting work, in their laptop wearing a headset. And then on the next one, I said, do a woman of color. Notice I didn't say, do an African American or do a Latino. I said, do a woman of color, and it would actually do that, which is really, really interesting. You can say, draw a woman, draw a man, draw an Asian person. Actually, it could do all that, and it's pretty accurate. In this one, for example, I said, hey, give me a middle-aged Hispanic descent person, overwhelmed with receipts all over the place. And again, you want to think about these images can be pretty interesting, so you can use in your website and that sort of thing. And as far as I know, and again, you probably want to get an attorney involved for this specific thing. As far as I know, if you have the Plus edition of ChatGPT, any images that are created here, they're free for you to use. And I don't know what the commercial license of these things are. That's something maybe you may want to, figure it out. But this is all the paid version. Again, this is not going to be in the free version. Okay, let's talk about advanced data analytics. I'm going to open up ChatGPT here. I'm going to create a new chat. And let's say, for example, that this time around, I want to give it potentially complex data. So maybe a spreadsheet. Okay, so for example, I'm going to come in here and let me zoom in so you can kind of get an idea for what this is. This is basically an export of a ledger of a bunch of transactions from QuickBooks. So just kind of imagine, you have an accounting system, you have QuickBooks, you have whatever, and you export a bunch of transactions, and you're going to tell ChatGPT to do some analysis here for you. Okay, so I can come here and I can upload that Excel document, and I can say analyze this document. Okay, and it will read the spreadsheet and it will try to figure out what in the world it's looking at, and then it will give you an analysis. And then once again, there's some questions here about, is this on the free version, is this the paid version? Everything that you've seen with vision, with image generation and image recognition, that's going to be paid version only. Okay, so here it did a quick analysis. So it started by saying, hey, I identified what's in there. So there's a whole bunch of columns, and it gives you a description of what each column is. It's kind of the starting point. It says, hey, I think I know what I'm looking at. And then you can say, what are the top expenses? Okay, and it'll go through that spreadsheet and do that. And again, some people will go, Hector, I can go into Excel and I can resort by amount and I can figure out what the top expenses are. Yeah, you're 100% right. You can do that. You can do all these things in Excel, but it takes a gazillion clicks. So I want you to think about a future where AI is doing quick back of the napkin analysis for you. And I want you to think about audit. What is this going to do to audit in the long run? It's going to be pretty interesting. The type of things that we're going to see with that. So you can upload even more complex things. For example, let's do something even more complex. Let's say I have a 10K. This is how many pages is this thing? 139 pages. This is a 10K report from Intuit. So 10K report from Intuit. One of the things that we're going to start seeing in the long run is I think people are going to start reading less because they'll be able to dump this 150-page documents into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you analyze this for me? So I can say something like, what was the net income in last year? Okay, so it's going to go through the entire 140-page document, the 10K, and it's going to find specifically what the net income is. Okay, there it is, 2.3 billion. And if you click here on the little link, it opens up the file for you. But I can say which page in the PDF has this info. Okay, and it says can be found on page 270. Well, that's actually not right. There's not 270 pages in this thing. So I would say, hey, check your work. There are 139 pages in this thing. Okay. I have no clue what in the world was thinking about page 270, but let's see. Okay, so it says, okay, it corrected myself. And something else that you need to know about ChatGPT, sometimes you have to say, check your work. Check your work. Okay, so page 56. So if I open up the file again and I go up to page 56, let's zoom in. Let's go down to page 56. Where are you? Page 56. There we go. There you go. Page 56, or I guess this one right here. Page 56, 2389 is the comprehensive income. Is there maybe another page with net income here? Page 56, I guess that's it. So it got me pretty close to the answer there. I don't know why it said, oh, there it is, net income right here. Page 56, that's right, page 56. It got it, okay? And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in the 10K. Maybe I don't want to read. Maybe I can put something like, according to the report, what are the risks for this company? Okay, so according to the report, so according to the report, what are the risks for this company? This is going to read the document, and if there's anything that talks about risks, right, in the document, it's going to actually do the summary for me. So this advanced data analysis is just really interesting. You could take these PDF files. You can do contracts too. The contract portion is pretty interesting. What it can do with contracts. So when you upload a file at a time and you start chatting with the file, that gives you a little bit of an entrance of sort of like what this contextual chatting is. And it's something that's very important. You're uploading documents into ChatGPT. Keep in mind that ChatGPT could use this information to train their database. So like while you play with this, until you have this enterprise version, until you have a version that specifically says that they're not going to read your documents or train it to do your documents, you want to only use sort of play data, no personal identifiable information. So you want to be very careful with that, because we don't know what confidentiality looks like in this world yet. Okay. Okay. In this case, it didn't find anything that had to do with risk factors. So maybe there isn't something in the document that mentioned risk factors. Okay, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Again, we had to read through the document, but I'll give you a quick example here. So, for example, here's an agreement. This is a real agreement. I just received this like a week ago. This is for an event I'm putting together down in Fort Lauderdale, and this is a 16-page document. Okay, and this has a bunch of stuff in it. And this is a contract to do a conference. So maybe I'm not that good at reading these things, and I want to just load it in here and ask it questions. So I'm going to load up the contract here, and I'm going to say, what is my total financial obligation if I agree to this? Okay, and it'll read the contract for me. It'll read different sections of the contract for me, and it'll analyze it and give me an answer. Now, one of the common questions people ask me is, how big of documents can you upload? I don't know what the specific I don't know what the specific uh, limit is. In my experience, once the documents are like over 100 pages, you start getting to the point where it'll just sort of crap out. Like it won't be able to read it anymore. Okay. So like about 100 pages for now. This is like really early 2024, end of 2023. That's pretty much what you're expecting to see. Maybe this stuff gets better. But here we go. It read the document. It broke out what are my financial obligations. Okay. It broke out what the potential taxes and service fees are. It broke this out. And this is all accurate. I've been reading this document for a while. It's all accurate. And it's very cool because it has helped me analyze the document even in a better way. So like I am a better, business person because I know how to understand these documents, or I can read these documents better. Now, last thing I want to show you is the last concept here in the slides, is how to build a custom GPT. We're going to go through this fairly quick. This is probably somewhere in the middle of 2024 as this feature gets better. We probably should do an entire webinar just dedicated to custom GPTs, but I want to give you a little bit of a teaser on the power of this thing. So when you are in ChatGPT, you have the first group is called custom GPTs. If you click on explore, you get to a page where all your custom GPTs are active, and then you can see any other custom GPTs that ChatGPT made available for you. So when you make a custom GPT, you click on create GPT, and then you tell it exactly what it is. You just natural language, you tell it what it is. So I'm going to tell it, you are going to be my financial advisor for my business. I will upload all my accounting / financial reports. Okay, so basically with natural language, I start telling it what it is, and it starts building the custom GPT for you. So you can give it all the instructions through this chat, or once you get pretty advanced with that, you can just go straight to the configure button, and then you can call it advice but. Okay, and then what I can do is I can upload the specific documents that I wanted to use. So I'm going to show you really quick here. So I have a whole bunch of documents here in my computer. I have an AR aging report. I have a income by customer summary. I have a profit and loss. Okay. I have a sales by customer summary. I have a purchases by vendor detail. I'm just showing you. I have a whole bunch of documents in here. So let's just say these are all the financial statements. So I'm going to come up here and click upload files, and I'm essentially creating my own context. I'm telling ChatGPT, you're only going to give me answers within the specific documents that I'm sending you. Okay? And then once you upload all these files, you tell ChatGPT what else this system can do. Can it web browse? I'm going to say no, because I only wanted to search within these documents. Can it do image generation? No, because I only wanted to search within these documents. You typically want to say yes to code interpreter because they might need that to analyze the files. And then on the conversation starters, you can just give an example like, what were my profits last year, or which vendor did I spend the most money on? Okay, and these are basically conversation starters that can help me help the person that's using the chat understand how to work with it. But one thing I'm going to add really important is in these custom instructions, I'm going to say only give information from the custom PDFs I uploaded. Okay, so I basically in the instruction saying, hey, only get it from here. So once you're done uploading all the files, once you're done creating conversation starters, once you're done giving it the instructions, you click on save and then where it says only me, anyone with a link or public, I can actually make this custom GPT public, and I can give access to my client or whatever. And just kind of want you to think about like what that word looks like. So we're in the ChatGPT custom bot, and then we're gonna click on what were my profits last year, or we can type that in, and essentially what you're seeing is the custom ChatGPT bot. It's only searching within the knowledge of the documents that I give it. So it's not gonna go out to the internet. It's not gonna go out to general knowledge. I can say who was my best customer. And yes, you can go into QuickBooks and you can search that. You can go into QuickBooks and pull the report. But imagine a world where your financial statements are all completely accessible via a chat. And then all of a sudden, a small business owner or an accountant through a chatbot can now interact and do statistical analysis. You can ask it for things like financial ratios. What are my financial ratios, etc., and it'll start doing the calculations for you. So that would be the very last thing I covered. Last thing, I just want to encourage you, take a look at the slides. There's additional resources. There's a Facebook group for ChatGPT and AI for accountants. There's great YouTubers out there that create content. There's great videos you can do. There's free certificates that you can get, and there's also the official prompt engineering guide from ChatGPT. Do you have any other questions or need anything specific with regards to ChatGPT or something in the QuickBooks world, which is my specialty, there's my email. Thank you, everybody.